Right now, the Happy Mindset is expanding its language hacking community. If you want to join in, you'll be in among a group of like-minded people looking for personal growth, learning new languages, and having fun along the way. All you need to do is head on over to Facebook, type in the Happy Mindset, Mindful Language Hackers. You'll find the community there. You'll also find out more about the Language Hacker Blueprint, which helps you learn specifically English, French, Spanish, or Italian right now. And so I hope to see you there. Take care, and I hope you enjoy the episode. So welcome to the Happy Mindset Show, the show that brings you insights, realizations, and lessons learned in order to help you to live a life you love. Today's episode is episode number 26, and today's episode title is Everybody is a Plan Until the Shit Hits the Fan. So today I'm joined by Tofe Evans. Tofe is an ultramarathon runner. He's a thought leader on resilience. Tofe has challenged his limitations, overcome obstacles, and created a unique and creative life along the way. So today we're going to talk about his journey, where he's come from, what he's overcome, and what his message is today. Thanks for joining us today, Tofe.
Thanks, brother.
So I guess my first question is just, where did it all begin for you?
So for me, that's a very thought-provoking question. If I really think about it, it probably would have happened back home. I didn't know how to deal with stress, and alcohol and hard drugs seemed like the only answer for me. And it was very exhilarating at the time because it was like a rush. And then afterwards, but at the same time, I'm kind of like bottling up those monsters. I'm putting everything under the bed. I'm sweeping everything away. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, I need to travel because I'm running away.
Okay.
There's that fight or flight, but I also wanted to see the world at the same time. I looked at it like an opportunity to, let's just new chapter, whatever. Because there was a few things going on. And then I traveled with my best friend, and that was amazing. Also got like crazy, like wanderlust. And then afterwards, the following year, I was like, I'm going to go for an indefinite amount of time. So I did that. But at the same time, I decided to run a side business. I also was going through a bit of relationship issues, and with my best friends, with intimate stuff, and also there was a bit of family stuff going on. Like there was a death at one point in that, and I was going through financial issues, and all these issues magnified as well, and how I was dealing them would also magnify. And then it gets to a point where I'm looking in the mirror, and you are going, I'm not happy with the person I am. So you mask. Mm-hmm. You up the drugs and alcohol, and you treat people as a total jerk. And it gets to a point where you totally change as a person, that you are so unhappy. And then now you're really abusing the stuff, and then you're starting to harm yourself. Mm. And suicide feels like the only answer. That's how real it gets. And you don't want to talk to anyone, because as a male, we have so much testosterone that it's considered a weak move. Mm. But what's even weaker is imploding. So how do you prevent that implosion? Is by just letting it out. And I'm not saying out on the punching bag, that might feel like it, but it's actually talking to people that have been through some sort of rock bottom, because they will, they'll be able to empathize and be very compassionate, because they feel your pain. Because no one, and there's, I did a keynote in America, and I said, show of hands, who would rather physical pain than emotional pain? Everyone's hands would have up. Right. And it's true. Like, that's why people harm themselves, because it's less painful than emotional pain. So when I was doing that big race in Scotland, I was with my English mate, and I said to him, we are in a lot of pain. We are 250 Ks in, but this is less than emotional pain. And he stopped and he said, oh my God, you are onto something. I said, yeah, I know I'm onto something. So as I've gotten older, I realize I'm actually really grateful for those inner demons. Mm-hmm. Like, you become in love with your monsters, and not like a masochistic way, but because they are a foundation to your success.
So I guess when you were at your lowest point, what was the first practical step you took? You said it's about releasing the emotion. Yeah. But how did you start releasing the emotion?
There was a few ways. It was understanding that to talk to people, but actually, believe it or not, the first people I started talking to were women, because you put a bunch of women together and they're going to vent. Like, you put a bunch of women together at breakfast, because it's just human. Yeah. You put a bunch of guys together, especially at a pub, and it might be about the sport. It might be what girl they may have banged. Who knows? So for me to talk to older women I felt like I wouldn't be judged.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the end of the day, like people are there they're just doing what's best in their nature. And before even that, I was writing because I needed to get it out. So journaling was the best thing for me.
So was that the first step before you even started talking to other people? Okay.
I would say it was that. And then it was able to talk to people. But I flipped the switch. I'm able to talk to, like, be out here on a podcast and talk to you about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because instead of going, what are people going to think of me? I wonder if they're going through something similar.
Mm-hmm.
That's
when did that start occurring to you? I wonder whether other people are going through something similar.
I would say only about a year and a half ago. Like, I kept that in there for so long, and that was an insecurity of mine for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But you can turn your insecurities into a strength afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Because it makes you human. Like, no one's perfect. And when you realize, like, the best relationships, the best people I've ever, like, able to resonate with are the ones that have also gone through hell. And everyone's gone through hell. That's
Mm-hmm.
the thing. We've all gone through hell. Like, when we got a coffee before, the barista has also been through hell. And sometimes we're stuck in an egocentric paradigm.
Yeah.
I'm going through it worse than everyone else. No, some guy just lost his arms. He's going through it much worse. But it's not to compare.
Yeah,
it's just understanding that we all go through stress.
So when were you able to see those perspectives, like put your own situation in perspective with somebody who's going through something much worse? Like, when in the journey did it start occurring to you that somebody else always has it much worse than you have?
When I ran my first marathon.
Okay.
About 3 years ago. A little bit over 3 years now. It wasn't until when you sign up for a marathon, there's a moment of going, what the hell have I just done?
Yeah.
And whatever you've got the end game in mind. Now it's about working backwards. Now I've got to find a training plan. I literally Googled how to run your first marathon after I paid for it, because I sign up now, worry later, as Richard Branson would say. And I did all the training. That was a very rigorous process, but it wasn't until marathon day and I said, what the hell have I done? The exact same thing.
Mm.
But when I stop and look around, every first-time marathoner is thinking the exact same thing.
Mm.
And when you run a marathon or an ultra or even a half marathon, any sort of endurance requires your body to put yourself through, and I wouldn't say extreme, but much more movement than usual.
Mm-hmm.
It's like life, but really condensed, so everything's amplified. So the lows feel lower than ever. The highs feel high. And that's why the marathon high, people are just high for ages. Like, as in, you're in the race. Well, actually, no, if I backtrack a bit, you go, what am I doing? And then you start the race and this is actually not bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fine. The nerves go away. And then you're fine. You're like, okay, I'm doing all right. And then it gets to about that 30K mark, 35K mark. And then it's just like, oh my God, it's like I'm upset and like depressed again. But you learn to push through, and you're like in sheer will, this, I would say, like a tunnel vision,
mm-hmm.
where you're like this, you're like locked in. And for some reason you just snap out of it. And you go, that wasn't that bad. Now we can finish on, we can get along.
Mm-hmm.
And before you know it, you see someone that's struggling and you go, hey man, do you need water? Do you need food?
Yeah.
Do you need company? Because I was literally in your shoes before, so you can kind of relate.
Yeah. And
it's like a rock bottom. It feels like a rock bottom during a run. And that, no, I'm fine, just let me go. Or like, yeah, do you have a gel on you, whatever it is. And then when you cross that finishing line, you're like, oh my God, I've done it. And the races you remember in marathon running or ultra marathon running, the races you remember the most are the ones where you have to dig the deepest. And that's life too.
Mm-hmm.
The people I find that are incredibly grateful in life have gone through more hell than anyone. And not to compare, but they've just gone, maybe they went through crazy business adversity. Maybe there was an ultra marathon. Maybe they lost their parents. Maybe they were part of a crazy car accident. But they end up being grateful for the fundamentals in life and human connection. Everything else is just a bonus.
Mm-hmm. That's a good mindset to come from. When did you discover sport in your journey? When did you discover running as an outlet to, I guess, discover your resilience and your well-being? So
a funny story about that. I used to really suck at sport growing up. I used to love it. I still do. I still love watching sport, but to participate in it, I was horrendous. I was always the kid that got picked last when it came to like ball sports or any sort of team sport, because my hand-eye coordination is horrendous.
Okay.
So that sucked growing up, right? So I did a lot of academic subjects in high school. I did like your physics and your maths and all that. And it wasn't until when I was able to open up to people, it was like a burden I kind of let out because I'm holding on to dead weight. And then I had the clarity of going, why am I not happy? I got really curious about it. And that's when I like got this obsession with psychology, understanding if people going through the same thing. But one of the trends I found between books and articles I was reading was my health was so degraded. I need to make it a high priority. So for me, health equals sport. If you think like the sportiest people, almost the healthiest people, well, now I need to just do a sport. So I'll go for a jog while I think about it. And then the penny drops. Why don't I just take up running? Yeah. But the moment, there's a difference between working out and there's a difference between training.
Okay, what's the difference for you?
Working out feels like you're just doing it for the sake of it. Training, you're actually putting it towards something. Okay. So as I'm running, the epiphany came, why not just do a marathon? And then that got my ass into gear. And especially if you put something that requires like a waiver, like money, if you're going to pay for something, because now there's loss aversion. Is that psychological guilt if you don't do it, or at least like finish it, whatever it is. I have to do it now because I've invested into it somehow.
Yeah.
And running became an outlet as an escapism to run away from my demons, ironically. And a lot of marathoners are also running from their demons. But I use it as an escapism. Now I use it to challenge myself and to help other people. And
when did that shift, running from your demons to actually facing your demons, I guess, now on your marathons?
You know what? When I was able to it felt very identical that the mental blocks and runs felt like life's adversity.
Okay, yeah.
It's almost like there's a correlation there somehow. There is also, it teaches you present focused living. You know what? If you're having depression and anxiety working together, it's like living in the past and in the future at the same time. It's living with fear and regret at the same time. It's when you don't care about anything and you care about everything at the same time. So we're not actually in the middle where we need to be. You get to the end of your day and you don't remember what you've done. So what it taught me was when I'm running, all I'm caring about is where my feet are going. Like there could be a hurricane going on for all I know. And I wouldn't even know because I'm just focused on where my feet are going. So I'm present focused living. I'm like, I'm so attuned with my body that I can just feel the wind going by. I can hear the cars go by. And that wasn't until I stopped running with music. So when I started running with music, sometimes you need music just to to uplift you and to keep you disciplined, whatever. But nowadays, if I'm running with friends, there's no music unless we might have like a phone attached to us and we might be singing or whatever. But as opposed to running with music, I was running with podcasts for a bit just to keep me going, but I'm much more aware of what's going on around me and my surroundings.
Okay.
Because it's a meditation for me.
Running.
Yeah. Yep. It's for sure. It's a type of meditation for me.
Yeah. Like a meditative state of flow.
There's 100%. That's what it is. And trail running is the one for me because when you're trail running, you have to be aware of what's coming in front of you because you might roll your ankle because it's like downhill and the terrain is like that.
Okay.
And you have to know where your ankles are going. Or if you're going up, you don't care about anything else but getting up that hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got nothing else in your mind but that one thing.
Okay. And so like for the music, was that a conscious decision you made to stop using the music to become more aware, or was it just like a natural, you got more into running?
It happened incidentally because it was raining and I didn't want to get my iPod wet. Okay. And then from there I was like, this isn't even that bad.
Yeah.
And then I stuck with it and I said, I could hear everyone and it seemed like a tough decision at first because what am I going to do for 2 hours?
Yeah.
For like a half marathon, whatever it was at the time. And then I was like, actually I really like this and music can only do so much. And then I was too busy skipping songs. I wasn't even doing it for the sake of it anymore.
Okay. So it was a distraction kind of.
It became a distraction afterwards.
So how do you look at discipline? I know that sometimes we have a negative relationship with discipline. It's like, it seems like a hard thing, but in my experience, it's been like the more disciplined I've become, the more I've actually done stuff in my life that I wanted to do in the first place. How about you? How do you look at discipline in your life? Discipline
is, motivation comes and goes. Motivation, if you have like a flame, motivation will light the flame. Discipline will keep fanning it. So look at discipline as, I think Will Smith said it best. Discipline has like this negative connotation because people think like military or whatever.
Yeah.
Discipline is self-control.
I think actually it's a self-discipline. It was like when I was looking at discipline from somebody else disciplining me without me knowing why they're disciplining me, that's when I had a negative relationship. But when I started self-disciplining and surrounding myself with people who could help me with discipline, then it became more of a positive relationship for me because I could see why I was doing it. It was keeping me on track towards my goals and ambitions.
That's it. And it's if you look at the mind like this open grassy field, like think of it like a soccer pitch or a rugby pitch, and if it's full of grass, that's our mind, and especially high grass. Now, the moment we have a habit, it's like mowing a row of grass till you can see the clear pathway. And for example, people don't even remember driving to work because they've done it so many times and they've taken that route so many times. They do it with their eyes closed.
Yep.
And it's like brushing our teeth. We don't set a reminder to do it because we've done it so many times. So when you do a new habit, at first it's a bit rusty because you're like, this seems weird, but it's about rewiring neural pathways. Yep. And you know what? If it's taken to work, go a different route but you can, for me, the things I have discipline with, like training and fitness, I don't be so stringent on that style. Like it's a non-negotiable for me, but I like to change things up because I think part of routine kills creativity.
Okay. Yeah.
But you need to be disciplined what you do, but you need to have that flexibility to prevent complacency. So you can have fun with it still, right? For example, like every Wednesday back home, me and the guys will summit a mountain, and it's like sometimes it's a 6-hour stint. And it's scary as hell because you can't see anything and it's straight up. And it's fun because you're with the guys and we'll have like the head torch and whatever. But we'll change it up every time. And that's not like in my like in anyone else's training plan. It's just in mine. And it's just having fun with it, but doing it that it's a non-negotiable because I know it's done so well for me. And it's always been having that experimentation kind of mindset is incredibly important, so that you never know what works as well. Yeah. Before you know, like, oh, that one worked, and then you double down on what works every time. It's that spaghetti method.
Yeah, that's true. Like, have you seen your process? Has it evolved over time with experimentation, like your process?
Yeah, I would say so. You end up saying, at first you say yes to a lot of things because you want to get the ball rolling, and then you have so much on your plate, you start saying no to things.
Was that hard for you to start saying no to things?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How did you start practicing it? And
if things aren't illegal, immoral, or unethical, I'll usually do it, but it's got to be aligned with my vision.
Okay.
That's it. So for example, if we're going to talk about sponsorship, let's just say sponsorship, if KFC come up to me and go, we're going to give you $1 million, whatever, I would say no, because their values don't align with my values. Yeah. And that's what makes a good business partnership. That's what makes a good marriage. That's what makes a good collaboration. The values align. And it's understanding, all right, well, the other party, do their values align with mine? And is this going to benefit in the long term for what I want to achieve? Yeah. But to get that, you have to know what you want to achieve. I think people forget that part. Like, you need that foundation. If you don't have a foundation, your house is going to crumble. You as a person or as an entity is going to crumble. Yeah. It's good knowing that first. That's like the first step.
Did it take you long to get your clarity around your values? Did it take you long to get clarity on that? Yeah, totally.
And
what did that entail? What did it entail to get clarity around your mission and purpose?
You know what? Knowing more about myself. So that self-awareness thing. You know, I did a few personality tests. This is just what was worked for me. Yeah. And it was because I needed another perspective, right? And for me, I am good at vision. I'm good at getting in the trenches of doing work, but I'm not the best at strategy. I'll admit that. And I'll have the humility to prove that. So the vision's there. I'll get in the work, but I'm going in that direction, complete opposite direction. So I hired a strategist to be my outlook. That's someone that's really good with strategy, right? Yeah. So we all have strengths in certain things. Like, I suck at so much in this world, but the things I'm good at, I make sure I just triple everything on that. And then I outsource the rest, because I can do anything, but I can't do everything. And I'd rather be really, really good at those couple of things to monopolize. I'm not talking about it from a money point of view, but to dominate in that field, as opposed to mediocre at everything. Yeah. Things have got to give. And it's good knowing that. So I definitely don't want to be known as jack of all trades. Yeah. And so I'll hire those people, and they said, no, Tofe, like, we're not telling you what to exactly do, but if you actually went in this way, you'd probably get your goals faster. Yeah. Whatever. So, but
that makes sense. Yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, the goal is something and is a byproduct, but you have to enjoy the process. Now, that's so cliche to say. It's called the progress principle. Jonathan Haidt talks about this in the happiness hypothesis. But it's like when I'm in a race now, I made sure I did a race about in May, and it was 100 kilometers in the Blue Mountains, and very, very steep race. And I didn't care about times. I didn't care what I came, because this would have been a training run for Scotland. That's how I looked at it.
Okay.
I used an arbitrary number where you've got 2.5% at the start, 2.5% at the end. So you've got 95% in the middle, roughly. Enjoy as much of that in the middle, because you have to, that's life. Where you are, I remember there was there would have been about 6,000 set of stairs. No joke, in this race.
Stairs in there?
There were stairs in there, like natural rainforest stairs.
Oh, okay, yeah, I get you. Yeah.
And in there, this is 60 kilometers into the race as well, and there's just thousands and thousands of stairs. And I said to myself, just be grateful for this, because when you finish this, nothing's actually going to be as bad as this. And that's what I've applied to in life as well. Like, you learn to put yourself in the shit and embrace it, because nothing's going to be as bad as that. And it mentally prepares you for life when there's going to be a time when a bad business deal comes about, like that one deal that you really wanted, or a family member may pass away, or you're in a car accident, hypothetically. I don't know. So you just want to prepare for the worst, because adversity needs to be more habituated, especially in first world countries. Sometimes we have it so easily that we have sushi trains that bring us food because
we get too comfortable there.
We get too comfortable. So you learn to embrace the suck, as they call it for Navy SEALs, or put yourself through purposeful suffering, as they call it. I call it simulated adversity, but there's a lot of cool science.
What sort of, you do daily stuff like that, the small little things. Could you give some examples of like how we can build up our resilience and our resilient mindset? That's it.
So you want to start super small to build an evolutionary stable strategy. And you know about this.
I explained that actually in evolutionary stable strategy. It's like, it was in The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins where he talks about it, I think.
Yeah, it's like a system where you negotiate with the body and mind to remove any trauma. So for example, if you're going to the gym, if you're going to the gym for the first time in ever, or first time in just say a couple of years, don't do 6 days this week. Don't be a hero and do 6 days this week in 2-hour sessions each day, because you're going to burn yourself out. Yeah. So you want to start super small. Focus on like the long-term goal. Don't focus, because sometimes we're so focused on other people. I want to be that.
Yeah.
That person took 5 years to get that body.
Yeah.
They don't realize, or 6, whatever the length is. So it's starting super small so the fear is bearable. You know what? Just do 30 minutes a day, and you were going to do Tuesday and maybe Saturday. I don't know. You start super small, and then as you get more and more, you get more confident, and you focus on small wins, because you may have felt like you've lost for so long. It's about small wins.
Yeah.
And you're more and more and more and more. And yeah.
That's I think you take
the daily stuff. Oh, yeah,
you take like cold showers and stuff too.
Yeah, so it's the same thing when you want to put yourself through something scary. You don't have to, and it's not about like running in front of traffic. No, that's stupidity.
Yeah.
So having a cold shower is a great one. And people are like, I hate cold showers. Look, have your hot shower, and at the end, put it on cold for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
If you can do 3 seconds, you're fine. It sucks. But the next day, do 4 seconds. And you want to gradually build up. Maybe do 4 seconds that entire week. Then the next week, do 6 seconds. You want to slow, and then before you know it, after, 66 days through habit, University College London?
Yeah.
Maybe you can do 30 seconds today after like 66 days. And then before you know it, you just want to do something little. And then before you know, you're like, this doesn't feel like much anymore, because in that open grassy field, that is a habit where you can see the path so clearly that you just do it without even expectation. You're like, oh my God, I just did the cold shower today, and I didn't even think about it. I just did it.
Yeah.
And then you look forward to it, because you look forward to the challenge. Then it might be, all right, what else gets your heart rate up? It's knowing your fears. So a very cool challenge that I get people to do, because we all have different fears, because we all think differently, and we all have different paths, whatever. List 10 fears that you have. Any 10 fears, whether they're super big, maybe even increase them in difficulty. Then start with the easiest one. Whether you knock it out in today or it takes you a week to knock out, once you knock that one out, work your way up the list.
Yeah.
So, it might be, I used to have a fear of heights. So I jumped out of a plane, and then I did it again. I'm like, this is actually really cool. I love this. Then the next one was writing a book, because I was scared what people were going to think. And I said, you know what, screw it, just do it. and I only just want to get one person. If one person can get value from this, if this saved one person's life, if this got one person out of a rut, that was it. To get someone out of a rut, whether they're very suicidal or they're just want to go from good to great, that's what I wanted with it. And I've done that. And then it's like, all right, what's next on the list? So I'm always constantly chasing those fears. But Seth Godin talked about this recently, where Icarus and Daedalus, the two, there's like, I think it's a Greek mythology. And he started with, you know what, people, they misinterpret the story today, because in the story it talks about how Daedalus told Icarus, all right, if you fly too high, you're going to hit the clouds and the moisture, and then you're going to crash and burn, which is actually what happened. But they missed the part of if you fly too low, you're going to hit the mountains. And you're actually better flying higher. And
you learn from like flying high and falling, at least. Like you don't learn from just like keeping low and like
that's complacency. That's it. And that's comfort zoning. Now, like a mountain's pretty high, but when you can fly, you can high as you want. He also talked about how, and like I mentioned this in the book because I got a psychologist involved. But when we go through like ancestors back in the day, if you were ostracized from the tribe at all, there's a pretty good chance like a wild animal is going to eat you, whether it's like a saber-toothed tiger, lion tiger, whatever it is, giant human-sized eagle. Nowadays, like from where we are, from those people to where we are now, we are so technologically advanced. We connected from the outside of the world, and now we're in person. The village effect, which is actually what life is about, the village effect. And that's why I think social media is the best thing ever.
Can you explain the village effect?
It's when humans can like connect in person, when they can as a community. Okay. That's what it is. Yeah. So when you can use social media online to connect offline, it's a great thing. And but how we've grown technologically is amazing. How we've grown in regards to our fear and thinking has only changed a very, very small fraction. Like we're a little bit more aware about it, but 99.99% of the world is still living in fear. And it's okay. Like fear is human and everything, and it's because it's innate. But people don't and then Seth Godin, what he said is, when we have that fear moment, it means we're onto something. So that's when we want to embrace it. Yeah. So that's what I thought, that's actually very powerful. So that's why if you learn to put yourself through something scary, you habituate to it. And then when you've made that a daily habit, and you learn to embrace and put yourself through something scary, when you come across actual life adversity, you're not traumatized because you built an ESS around that. Yeah.
You're more of a calmer mind than when you're actually approached by...
That's it. You become the eye of the hurricane.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
Yeah, so in the hurricane, it's actually probably the safest to be in the dead center of it.
Because it's counterintuitive, like. That's counterintuitive for us to kind of comprehend.
Very counterintuitive. Yeah.
But then how has brain science helped you, like, as well? It's helped me as well to understand the amygdala, just basic stuff. I didn't know about the amygdala, my fight or fright responses. And once I started understanding that, I was like, okay, this is the blueprint for all of humanity. Like we all have an amygdala and stuff. So that kind of made me go, maybe I'm not the only person who's fearing stuff that I shouldn't be fearing.
Totally. So by learning to put yourself through purposeful suffering, that reduces the amygdala. So the amygdala, for those who don't know, it's the fear center in the brain. So the brain, if we're going to break it up into like the 3 or 4 main segments, you've got the cortex or the cortical regions. That's what makes all the decision making. You have the limbic region, which is our emotional center. And in there, there's the hippocampus, which is the memory center. And the other one is, what's the other one?
The neocortex is like the higher decision making thing.
Yeah, so the cortex, and there's a third one. Oh, the reptilian brain. Reptilian brain is a very clever ancestral brain that goes back, and that's kind of tied in with the amygdala. Yeah. And what happens is they all talk to each other in a way. Like there's neurotransmitters that do it. And even understanding that, you know what, when we're in high school, we're more prone to do things that are stupid because our consequential thinking hasn't grown yet. That's why we're less risk averse when we're younger. That's why we have to embrace our inner child, not to be immature, because we're more risk taking. That's the thing. That's why I really resonate with entrepreneurs, because they don't succumb to status quo or whatever. And I'm not saying people that work for corporate are losers or anything.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that. It's just people that do that. They just want, because they've just taken that leap of faith, whatever.
Yeah.
And as we get older, so the female brain, everyone's like male or female, mid-20s, just say mid-20s, it finally develops. And as we get older, we're like, oh, I don't want to do that. We become a little more cynical because we understand the repercussions of things.
Consequences.
The consequences.
Wow.
So even understanding that is good to know. And you don't have to go to university to understand that in part of psychology. It's just knowing that, because when we have a general understanding of why we do things, and why we succumb to things. And
no, that's important. I think what was blocking me before about like not knowing this stuff was that I had this idea that if I'm going to look into brain science and psychology, I need like a degree in it. So I was like, I didn't really go that much. But when I was out of curiosity, I was kind of thinking there's probably more to life. I could probably challenge myself more. I could probably overcome limitations. And then I started reading about psychology, started finding out about this stuff, and it made it more normalized it for me. Because up until that point, I didn't know that there was like some science to it. And once I started seeing that, then I was like, okay, this is a natural reaction. So I need to cultivate a more resilient mindset when I'm in these situations to overcome them.
Yep.
So I think like even with learning, like I think these are stuff that anybody should be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So they can so somebody who's like got this belief that they're a language person, they're no good at maths. So you can start seeing that, is that actually true? Is that a belief I'm carrying around, or is it actually fact? And then like you can become a bit more well-rounded. And I think it's finding that balance between being a generalist and not being a jack of all trades who's mediocre at everything. Because I do think you need a general kind of knowledge, so you know. I think it helps with team building, because you know who's good at what they're doing because you've got some area of knowledge in what they're doing.
That's it. And it's not doing it so that you're going to spend 3 years in that field. It's even if it's like a couple of weeks, right? Like you're talking about coding, and I know a little bit about coding because I did a week of it, and I realized this isn't for me. Mm-hmm. And funnily enough, you're talking about things that what people don't know what they're good at. I didn't do any of these things at school. I didn't do running, writing, or public speaking. I actually hated all 3 of those at school. 3 things I do the most today. Okay. Because I flipped it for purpose. I flipped it by going, okay, I'm going to I'm not the quickest guy in the field in running, but I'm going to do it I did a lot of it charity. I do it for cause reasons. The amount of messages that people go, I run because of you now. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. Like the writing thing, people all over the world can resonate with my writing, and even public speaking, being up on stage, and someone will go, I heard you speak, that was amazing. That is the best thing ever. Yeah. So the 3 things, we always have these preconceived notions, right? So until you give it a try, and you don't have to do 3 years of it, whatever. Just give it just do it at a very, very small level. Yep. And then if you still like it and you're curious about it, keep going. That's it.
Yeah, because you can take, the thing is no waste of time, because you take the lessons you've learned from there and apply it to the next thing you're doing. Even if it's not something you're doing consciously, you do carry it over unconscious. You internalize stuff into that. Yeah. Actually, how have you seen the difference between theoretical knowledge and internalizing the knowledge on your journey?
That's a good question. So theoretically, I will try and learn from books and mentors and people and everyone that's high up, respected in their field, because I want to test it for myself. Yeah. And it's just going into things. We're talking about this today. When something doesn't go to plan, you have to kind of remove the emotion out of it, or just got to fail quickly. And at first it's why do you want to fail? But you fail because there's no actually such thing as fail. It's something you've learned. And because that failure you can pass on to other people to remove the learning, to reduce the learning curve. People don't realize it's okay to make mistakes, but they don't have to be yours. So if you can do it and be that guinea pig for them, they're going to really appreciate that. Yeah. And because you've got humility, humility is embarrassing, but when you can talk about it, so even all this stuff today has taken me years to just be cool with it. Yeah. And at the end of the day, they're all just experiments that didn't go to plan. Yeah. And that's how you got to look at it too, with testing the theoretical knowledge. That's it. I think it's okay with not feeling comfortable at the beginning, because you'll be doing stuff and you're I feel a bit out of place here, or that kind of stuff. I think it's important to know that that's how it starts. If you're waiting for you to be comfortable and to be okay with everything they begin with, you'll never get there to where you need to get to. So I think that's been my kind of journey. I think that's
I want to highlight that.
Yeah, of course.
So actually, you've run a Mount Everest too at some stage, didn't you?
Yeah, so it was when was it? It was last year in May time.
How did that come about?
Funnily enough, I had friends that saw this article, right? And it was the top 10 most absurd and dangerous ultramarathons in the world.
Okay.
And that happened to be one of the top ones. And I said, that would be pretty cool. And I never thought anything more of it. And it wasn't until I have friends with, which is actually, cystic fibrosis is actually massive in the Irish community. I have friends with cystic fibrosis, and one of my dear friends, he said, I'd love to collaborate and connect their brain somehow. And I wasn't sure how to connect it. And then when that race came up, and I said, I've got it, dude. It's hard to breathe in the Everest region. It's hard to breathe if you have CF. Let's put them together. And turned it into like a little cool charity project, endurance charity project. And it taught me to remember my why during that, where, you know, it's hard to breathe up there. And I'm there for 3.5 weeks, but people with cystic fibrosis can't breathe every day. So this is nothing. And it's not to compare. It's just to go and choosing perspective. That's what it's about.
That's what it gives you more compassion as well for people who are in those situations. I guess.
100%. And like the more I think about it, it just gives me like they're such strong people because they got to deal with this every day. And some of them would say it's like, especially when they're going through panic attacks, or whatever, it's like breathing through a straw. Like imagine having like from there to there. Yeah, it would suck.
Yeah, it would. I think they're talking about too, like virtual reality of like simulating experiences like this, so we can actually have more compassion for people who are in situations we can't fully experience and comprehend. Of course, I think that'd be quite a cool thing for us to be able, or for humanity to be able to do for ourselves and other people's shoes.
Essentially, you're fast tracking the process by showing them on a level that's so interactive that people can empathize in it. People like
it's viscerally.
Viscerally, yeah, perfect word for it. It's hard to empathize if you've never been through it.
Yeah.
That's why, like, when you come across your own rock bottom,
yeah,
like every one of our heroes, people that's listening, your heroes, my heroes, all came from a trajectory of pain, and that's what makes them who they are. And that's where you can use that to your advantage, and not like to. And I'm not saying that from like a to boast kind of thing. It's like where you go, I've been through hell. I know I can go through more. That's what it's about,
and transform that energy. Then, like, I think there's like there is kind of like a toughness. Like, it gives you a bit more toughness to your kind of message, and you do need that because, like, the world is throw stuff at you, and if you don't have that resilience and adaptability that comes from some sort of pain you've overcome, and it's going to be a lot more difficult, I think. And that's where the gratitude comes in, because you've got like adversity by mindset by gratitude. Can you just explain that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So this is my concept called practical resilience. It's like a Venn diagram where you have the top one is adversity, then you got in the mirror, and then mindset and gratitude. All three of those are these concentric circles that work together. They all play their part. Like adversity, if we talk about it like through my story today and articulate it through this framework, adversity, we go through egocentric paradigm. Until we realize I'm not the only one that goes through stress in life. I'm really condensing this, by the way. That, you know what, I need to, maybe I'm sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. Maybe I'm sick of just living in the past or whatever. But it's about starting super small. And it's about having that discipline, because the difference between the convergence when two circles overlap in the middle between mindset and adversity is discipline.
Okay.
Yeah. In there, you can call it hard work. You can call it self-development, actually.
Yeah.
Throughout the process, you start getting a little obsessed in a good way, because you need obsession so you can stand out. You need obsession so that even when you want to give up, you still have that chip on your shoulder. And then later down the track, you stop and you go, oh my God, I'm actually grateful to go through that. Because if I didn't do that, I wouldn't put myself in the right mindset. And then you end up going, I'm actually really grateful to go through that. And then the convergence between gratitude and adversity, back to the start, is perspective. And then here's the caveat. You got to go through adversity again. So you don't stay complacent, but you embrace adversity. And so in the very, very middle of those three concentric circles is practical resilience. It's a mental framework, and you can turn it tangibly, which I teach people if they want to go like on a deeper level and work with me one-on-one or in a group. that's what happens. You end up embracing adversity instead of looking at it as like a chore, because it does a lot of good for you.
Okay. So yeah, you shift your perspective around adversity itself.
Totally.
And so at the moment you're doing like six pack mindset, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell us a bit more about that.
So the 6-pack mindset, I talk about how, like, you know, having a 6-pack body is good, but having a 6-pack mind is more incredible. Like 6-pack bodies look incredible, but having a 6-pack mind is going to help you deal with adversity. That's going to help you be the eye of the hurricane. It's going to help you overcome fear. That's essentially those. And, you know, how do we take someone from good to great? How do we do that? So it's essentially think of like a mental boot camp. That's what it is, a mental boot camp where I'm going to be your general or your admiral or your colonel, whatever it is. Yeah. But I'm doing this stuff with you. So for example, it's an online thing. You have me every day for 90 days and you've got the lesson might be 2 minutes long or it might be 6 minutes long, anywhere between 2 and 6 minutes, because I understand everyone's time is valuable. And we go in, I give you the lesson, but I'm doing it in a practical setting where, you know what, today we're going to do something scary. We're going to do an ice bath, but I do the ice bath while doing the lesson.
Okay, cool.
Dead serious. Yeah. I did it while doing a cold shower. You know what? I went for a run while filming the lesson, and I'm knackered at this point, right? I'm just absolutely wrecked. Yeah. Then afterwards, I give people a goal to do. They do it, but it's not something like that and you just go whatever. I track your progress, because there are points where you have to go through. You got to fill in these every week. You got to fill in, and that gives me a good indication from, especially when you start to when you, every so often, I think it's every few days or every week, and then I can see the areas where you're thriving in. That's fine, because you're just naturally going to be good at those. And those areas where you're dipping, I give you ad hoc coaching, whatever, so we can go there. So the growth is back to it's almost like an exponential growth. So we're essentially what I fast track people's resilience. The ability to bounce back, the ability to adapt. And that's what it's about. So by the end of it, you have a 6-pack mind, because the mind is a mental gym. Like I know people that have incredible bodies, but their minds are obese. So I'm not saying you want to flip it so that you're obese and you've got a good body. Kind of want a good blend of both. And I'm saying healthy. So the first month is actually mindset. The second month is physical. And the third month is career purpose. And I'm not teaching people how to go entrepreneurial. I'm teaching people that you're living fulfilling work, no matter if you're intrapreneurial or entrepreneurial. Yeah,
finding their own kind of path, what's meaningful for them, I guess.
Totally, because some people we're talking about today, like their cars, everyone's a car. Yeah. But some people are just driving for the sake of it.
Yeah, just going through the motions kind of thing.
They don't have it anywhere, a GPS of the destination where they want to go to.
No, that sounds great. But even with the mindset, I find that if you've got a solid mindset, generally you'll be in good physical shape as well, because the body a lot of times is a reflection of the mind itself.
Yeah, we are what we eat. We are the people we hang around with, and we are the people, the sources of media we consume. So
that's in effect creating your own environment.
Yeah, you are a product of your environment, and so it's the food you eat, like the stuff you do to your body, where it's like moving, whatever. And look, you can make it fun. That's the cool thing. You can always make it fun. Yeah, I have the endurance community is a second family to me. Yeah, because we're out there and people of all shapes and sizes, all ages, all whatever, and we're all just there to better ourselves every day. Even though the beauty of it is that we've all gone through some sort of rock bottom, so we can all empathize and resonate with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's every community, right? Community is what.
That's what I was going to say. Like, was there any part in the journey where you felt like you were trying to go it alone?
At the start, it felt like it, and then you meet people on the journey, and it's like, what started you running? Yeah, believe it or not, I had mental health struggles. Oh my god, me too. Yeah. And you just even to say that, goosebumps, because I can think of some straight away. Yeah. And you end up becoming best friends almost. Yeah. Pretty much, you end up becoming best friends because, oh my god, we're not doing this alone. We're actually here the whole time.
And the thing is, we're wired for connection, so that's kind of like what we're looking for.
Neurobiologically, we're for story and connection. Right. So story is powerful because anyone listening is going, oh my god, that's me, because you're telling the own version in your head from what you've been through. Yeah. And that's why storytelling will always work. But through I try and do things through story showing, like literally doing it by example. But if I'm on stage, I can't literally show every time, but the story is powerful because it does help connect. They come hand in hand.
Yeah. So I guess my last question is, any book stand out in your mind as being like a pivotal book in your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few that comes to mind because I'm a big bookworm. If there's one I have to come down to, it'll be Arnold Schwarzenegger's autobiography.
Okay.
Total Recall.
So you learn from that?
That or Elon Musk's biography.
Yeah, that's great.
What did I learn the most from Arnold? You know, the guy got things done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was a guy that everyone looks at, like I look at him like an idol.
Mm-hmm.
But if I ever met him in person, I would treat him how I treat you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would approach him because he's just a human being at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Where the guy was this kid from Graz in Austria.
Yeah.
Yep. And you know what? He wanted to be a bodybuilder. So he trained to be a bodybuilder. And he had this reps and sets mentality,
mm-hmm.
which is discipline.
Yeah. Where,
you know what? You've got to do maybe bench press today and you've got to do 3 sets of 10. But you got to do that with everything. You got to skill that. You got to hone in. He did it with English speaking classes when he was training to be a grade 8 actor. Mm-hmm. And then the Governator, which is the governor. And then he became a millionaire by the age of 21, I'm pretty sure in his book, from entrepreneurial real estate reasons. Yeah, so he was living down Santa Monica and he studied every house you could think of in Santa Monica Boulevard. And then he became the go-to person in that. And it's just this guy that has this incredible work ethic and that just wanted to get things done, and he just didn't let other people's opinions dictate his reality.
Yeah, because I think he had a lot of people saying he couldn't do stuff at every step. Like,
and it was a big F you, I can do this, whatever.
Yeah. I think he did a lot of, he was very good at visualizing stuff as well, I think. Like, he was good at that. But also combining visualization with action, repeated action, and actually improvement and taking feedback on board.
Totally. And I think that's why I resonate with him, because I'm good at putting myself in the trenches. But you know what? Some people are good at strategy, but they don't have vision. But you can have these people in your team. Yeah. That's fine.
And I think naturally you become a little bit better yourself at strategy just through osmosis and being around them.
Through osmosis, you just pick up on things. And I'll admit, like, my strategy's probably gotten better because you know what your mentors are going to tell you, or you learn from other people, and you just take it in. Like, being in another city of the world, you understand their personality, because different cities have different personalities, right? So Cork and Dublin aren't that far apart, 2 different vibe of people, and there's no right or wrong between the 2. But you go, right, so I was in Edinburgh for the last few days, and one thing that Edinburgh does is everyone sticks to the left, and for me it's like, that is smart. Why don't they do that back home? But like, little things that you pick up on, you get to the root cause of like, why do they do that? Mm-hmm. And then you apply it to your own things. Yeah. And that's why travel is important, because it gives you perspective, another perspective. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Cool, Tofe. It's been great talking today. Lots of knowledge and wisdom and advice. And it's great to hear your story and how far you've come as well. And
thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
All right. So best of luck in the future, and wish you all the best. So until next time, have fun and enjoy the process. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for listening. Again, if you want to head on over to Facebook, you can join the Happy Mindset Mindful Language Hackers group. There you will find a community of like-minded people looking for personal growth, learning a new language, and having fun. And you'll also find out more about the Language Hacker Blueprint, which will specifically help you to learn English, French, Spanish, or Italian. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.